So, we all know England has a major housing crisis, right? And one of the biggest questions that always comes up is, how on earth do we pay for all the new homes, the roads, the schools, the local services that we so desperately need? Well, what if I told you the answer might be hiding in plain sight, right under our feet? It's in the value of the land itself. Let's dig into how unlocking that value could be the key to building England's future.
Okay, take a look at this number, 1.5 million. It's a huge number. Any idea what it represents? Because this massive challenge is really at the heart of what we're talking about today. Yep, you guessed it. 1.5 million is the UK government's target for new homes to be built during this parliament. It's a hugely ambitious goal, no doubt about it. And if you're going to meet a target this big, you have to tackle the single biggest cost in any new development, the price of the land. And that brings us to a really powerful idea. And that idea is called land value capture, or LVC. So what is it? Put simply, when a local council makes a public decision, like granting planning permission for new homes, the value of that piece of land can absolutely skyrocket. LVC is just a set of tools designed to capture a slice of that new value, so you can use it to pay for all the things the new community is actually going to need. So just how much value are we actually talking about here? I mean, is it a little or is it a lot? Well, brace yourself because the numbers are genuinely staggering, and they show you exactly why this is such a hot-button issue. Get this. According to government data, a hectare of ordinary farmland worth maybe £23,000 can suddenly be worth £2.67 million once it gets that magic stamp of approval for housing. That's an increase of 116 times. It's value that's created almost overnight just by a planning decision.
And that right there is the central debate. Many, like the Town and Country Planning Association, argue this profit is an unearned increment. I mean, the landowner didn't really do anything to create that extra value. It came from a public decision. So the big question is, how much of that windfall should be shared for the public good, instead of just fueling a market that can reward people for doing nothing?
Now, to be fair, the current system does capture a lot of value. About £5.5 billion was agreed in contributions just in 2022-23, so it's not nothing. But here's the catch. A parliamentary committee looked into it and found the whole system is complex, it's inconsistent, and ultimately it's just not delivering what it could be.
All right, so let's pop the hood and take a look at the current toolkit. In England, there are basically two main ways they try to capture this land value. But as we're about to see, the tools aren't always sharp enough for the job.
So on one hand, you've got Section 106 agreements. Think of these as custom, one-off deals that are negotiated for every single development site, usually to get things like affordable housing built. On the other hand, you have the Community Infrastructure Levy, or CIL. This is more of a fixed, non-negotiable charge, like a standard tax, that funds the bigger infrastructure projects for the whole area. So one is a bespoke negotiation, the other is a standard fee. Two very different approaches. And right away, you see a major problem. That CIL tool, it's only being used by about half of local councils in England. So you end up with what the report called a complex patchwork across the country. It makes things incredibly confusing and difficult for developers and councils alike. But maybe the biggest flaw of all is with those Section 106 deals. Developers can argue that providing the agreed-upon amount of affordable housing would make their project unprofitable. They do this using these really complicated viability assessments. And a lot of under-resourced local councils just don't have the firepower to effectively challenge these very complex financial arguments in those high-stakes negotiations. Okay, so the system has some pretty serious flaws, but it's not all bad news. The committee didn't just point out what was broken. It came up with some really practical ideas to forge better tools and build a better system.
And the recommendations are pretty straightforward, really. Things like using standard legal templates to speed up all the back and forth, creating a kind of referee to step in when negotiations get stuck, offering a fast track for developers who just agree to the affordable housing targets from day one. Oh, and creating a simple national map so everyone can see the CIL rules, wherever they are. It's all about making things faster, fairer, and a whole lot clearer.
So that's how we could fix the current system for everyday developments. But what happens when we think bigger? I mean, way bigger. What if we're not just building a few houses, but trying to build entire new communities from scratch?
And this is where it gets really ambitious. We're talking about the government's New Towns program, a plan to build a whole new generation of large-scale towns. This is a massive opportunity to put a really powerful version of land value capture right at the very heart of the entire plan.
The idea is to use a model that's worked before to build famous towns like Milton Keynes. Basically, a public development corporation is set up to lead the project. Now, the key, and this is absolutely crucial, is that it has the power to buy up land at or very close to its existing value. That's before any planning permission sends the prices through the roof. The corporation then builds the essential infrastructure itself, and that massive uplift in value it just created, it's captured by the corporation to pay for everything, including a target of 40% affordable housing. But, and this is a really big but, the committee flagged a huge risk. The government has already started naming potential sites for these new towns, but it hasn't actually set up the corporations to buy the land yet. This creates a golden window for speculators to swoop in, buy up the land, and drive prices up, which could make the whole model way less effective. The clock is seriously ticking on this. And look, if they get this right, the payoff is massive. The committee is backing a really ambitious target. 40% of all new homes in these towns should be affordable. And even more important, they recommend that at least half of those homes, so 20% of the total, should be for social rent. That's the most affordable type of housing there is, and it's what's needed most.
So, we end up right back where we started. Capturing the incredible value created by public decisions could truly be the key to funding the homes and communities that England desperately needs. But it all comes down to having smart, fast, and fair policy. The fundamental challenge hasn't changed. In the race between policymaking and the ever-rising price of land, who is going to come out on top?